Alright, all you Hadouken enthusiasts, welcome to this 3.14 Ultimatum League video update for the Divine IRE build. So I'm going to start off with saying this. There's been some major changes to this build and we're going to go over all of them, and we're going to look through path of building later, and we're going to talk a little bit about why I'm making the changes that I'm making. But in Ritual League, the Witch Ascendancy Elementalists was actually updated, and it's been significantly improved overall across the board. And I mean, like, I'm no professional at Path of Exile. Sure, I have a lot of hours in the game and I make quite a few builds here and there, but there is so much depth to this build, so it takes a long time to learn all these things and like really understand them. The big streamers like Cesarian and whatever, they have like 25,000 hours into the game and they still learn new stuff every day because of how much depth there is to the game and how many things that change every league. But so the first thing I'm going to talk about is that we are dropping the Inquisitor Ascendancy. When I learned about the Inquisitor Ascendancy a while back, I thought it was absolutely fantastic, you know, with the Righteous Providence and Inevitable Judgment, so much crit, and then you just ignore elemental resistances from monsters. Sanctuary and Pious Path is also great. But it seems that the new turn for Inquisitor will be going Instruments of Virtue and Instruments of Seal on other builds. But that's actually not what we're doing here. I don't really think they worked out well with Divine IRE, and actually I have learned some pretty new interesting things about Inevitable Judgment, which have made me come to realize that like Inquisitor is not the Ascendancy that we want to play for this. We absolutely want to play the Elementalist Ascendancy. And we're going to talk a little bit about that right now. So, Inevitable Judgment, critical strikes ignore enemy monster elemental resistances. So if you're basically crit capped, like if you have 100% critical strike chance, then you always ignore elemental resistances from monsters. But the problem is that many monsters in this game have a baseline, for example, of 50% elemental resist. So that's 50%. And what this then does is that it ignores those 50%, so we can do a lot of damage, which is fantastic. But the way that Inevitable Judgment works is that it just ignores their resistances no matter what. So if you're doing a map where the enemies have like plus 40 extra, then we ignore 90, which is great. And that's one place where Inquisitor is kind of good at. But this means that we can never go below 0. So since we are always attacking the enemy with 0% elemental resistances, no matter what we do, if they have 100, if they have 1,000, even if they have minus 100%, we always calculate our damage at 0%. And that means that we get actually kind of capped in terms of damage because we cannot actually go below 0. So if you play another build, for example, or another Ascendancy, for example, the Elementalist, and you play, you know, things like Elemental Equilibrium, where you go minus 50, and then you have some penetration and some more lowering of resistances through like curses or something like that, you can actually go below 0% and you can do a lot more damage. So the skill tree will look kind of the same. It's going to be an updated skill tree that we're going to look in Path to Building right now. So we're now looking at the Elementalist skill tree here in Path to Building, and you can see that there are not many changes to the overall skill tree at all. It's basically all the same. We instead now have Golem Commander, and we don't do any Force Shape or anything like that. And yeah, the reason why we're playing Elementalist is because Legion of the Primordial, we get a lot of damage from Golems. We get the buffs effect that they gave are stronger. They get resummoned even if they're killed, and they won't even be killed that much. And then Elemancer gives us Elemental Ailment Immunity, more effective buffs, and more Golems. So with this, with that, and then with Golem Commander, we can have 4 Golems up, Elemental Ailment Immunity, all the Golems gives us damage and defensiveness, and it's great. So no real defensive loss from switching over from Inquisitor over to Elementalist, only good positive stuff. Mastermind of Discord applies an extra minus 25% to the affected resistance, and this is what I talked about earlier. Inquisitor makes it so we always damage the enemy with 0% elemental resistances on it. But with Mastermind of Discord, we can actually go below. So if we have an exposure that gives minus 20, and then Mastermind of Discord does minus 25, that's minus 45%, right? But if the baseline enemy had 50, that means we're at 5%. But that is where Elemental Equilibrium comes in, where it gives another -50, so we can go down to like -45 instead, and therefore do so much more damage than the Inquisitor would do. And you're wondering, well, how do we actually apply Elemental Equilibrium now? So that's where one of the new changes come in here in the build as well. I've changed the other ring for the Malachai's Artifice Unset ring. Now, this is a pretty underused ring in my opinion, and a lot of people don't really know about this trick, or they don't really like the trick. You get penalized pretty heavily with -20 to all elemental resistances, but then you gain like 80% of the resistances of the gem that you put in. And how this works is that we use the Flame Golem in this ring. And basically, when the Flame Golem is inside the Unset ring, the Flame Golem will have Elemental Equilibrium. So when the Flame Golem attacks an enemy with like a fire attack or fire damage, then we will hit the enemy with fire damage through Elemental Equilibrium, and Elemental Equilibrium will be applied. So as you can see here, this ring is massive amounts of damage. The enemy gets hit by fire damage, so Elemental Equilibrium applies 25% extra fire damage, but -50 of the rest. And you can see here, mass amounts of damage. So Elemental Equilibrium -50, and then Exposure -25. We're already -25% on the enemy, and then we actually have the exposure of using, for example, Wave of Conviction as well, that adds even more. And that's why the Elementalist, in my opinion, right here just does so much more damage. That paired with Convergence, when you hit a unique enemy no more than once every seconds through Heart of Destruction, means that every 4 seconds we're gonna have Convergence. Because you can't get it more than once every 8 seconds, but it lasts for 4 seconds. So every 4 seconds it alternates between not having it and having it. And look at this, 30% more elemental damage when you have Convergence. That is a massive amount of DPS as well, 2.7 million. We go from 9.2 up to 12 million DPS. And that is why I choose to play the Elementalist this league myself for the Divine IRE that I'm going to league start with, because of the fact that it's stronger, it still has all the defensiveness because of the golems, still the same amount of HP, life regen is massive, we have ES, we still have stun immunity with unwavering focus, lucidity, and arcane swiftness when we're channeling, and the mana cost is not going to be a problem, it's 5, and you know, we have so much mana regen as well, it's not going to be an issue. So this build will actually feel great. And another major change that I actually did though is that now we're going to play full lightning instead. So if we have a look at our auras here, we're going Herald of Purity just for the damage boost of getting more physical damage from Herald of Purity. And it's also kind of nice having those bad boys running around and hit shit as well, I guess. But we're going Wrath and Herald of Thunder. And we will be converting all our damage over to lightning. So lightning spells have 25% physical damage converted to lightning. And then we also have the Fingerless Silk Gloves here that has 25% physical damage converted to lightning as well. So we will convert all our physical damage over to lightning 100%. And that means that we will do massive amounts of shock because we, you know, we're a crit build and we do lightning, so we're gonna have shock. Now, I don't really know exactly how to calculate shock, but I usually put like 15. This could be more though. If someone knows that, please tell me like how to calculate shock in this situation. But this number could maybe be higher, which means that we could do more damage. But I usually put 15 as a baseline if I know that I'm shocking, which we are. So more damage, same defensiveness, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun playing this character, because if we have a look at the 12 million DPS that we're seeing here, and we compare this to the old Divine IRE Inquisitor, we can see the old one had about 7 million DPS in my path of building. So that's a major difference. Going from 7.6 all the way up to 12. That's like 4.5 million DPS, which is a huge, massive difference. So yeah, definitely going to be going to Elementalist here. I'll also make the build guide update on the forum where we play Elementalist instead. And yeah, that's basically it, I think. I just want to take this time right now to thank you for being the beautiful, radiant person that you are. You stuck by this video and you're now here at the outro just listening to me ramble about smashing the YouTube subscription button and going and following me on Twitch at twitch.tv/burgerbrush, all the good stuff, you know. And if you do that, I mean, like, wow, you are an even better person than I could even ever imagine. So thank you very much for watching the video, and do those things as well. And I'll give you a hug whenever I see you. Like, thank you so much.